In the grand corridors of Ravenscroft Palace, where secrets whisper through ancient stone walls and every shadow holds a story, one man's loyalty would be tested in ways he never imagined. When Palace Guard Captain Marcus Blackwood discovered a simple hospital bracelet bearing an impossible name, he unknowingly set in motion events that would shake the very foundations of the royal house of Aldara. Some truths are buried so deep that even those sworn to protect the crown cannot foresee the storm that follows their discovery. The morning sun cast long shadows across the marble floors of Ravenscroft Palace as Captain Marcus Blackwood began his routine inspection of the East Wing. 23 years of faithful service had taught him that in a place where every whispered conversation could alter the fate of a kingdom, vigilance was not just a duty, it was survival. Marcus moved with the practiced precision of a man who had dedicated his life to protecting the royal family. His weathered hands checked each door handle, his sharp eyes scanning for anything out of place. The East Wing housed the private quarters of Queen Consort Isabella, the second wife of King Edmund Aldara, and the apartments of Crown Princess Sophia, the king's daughter from his first marriage to the beloved late Queen Margaret. The tension between the two women was no secret within the palace walls, though it remained carefully hidden from the public eye. Isabella, once a commoner who had captured the grieving king's heart 5 years after Queen Margaret's tragic death, had never quite found her place among the nobility. Princess Sophia, now 28 and heir to the throne, had made no secret of her disapproval of her stepmother's influence over her father. As Marcus rounded the corner toward the Queen Consort's private study, something caught his attention. A small piece of white plastic lay partially hidden beneath an ornate Persian rug. His training kicked in immediately. Nothing, no matter how insignificant, should be overlooked in the royal quarters. He knelt down and carefully extracted the object. It was a hospital identification bracelet, the kind used in medical facilities to identify patients. The plastic was slightly yellowed with age, and the printed text was faded but still legible. Marcus squinted at the small letters, expecting to see perhaps the name of a servant who had been recently treated for some minor ailment. What he read made his blood run cold. Patient, Princess Sophia Aldara. Dob, March 15, 1998. Admit date, September 3, 2023. Room, Private Wing 7B. Marcus's mind raced. September 3, 2023. He remembered that date with crystal clarity. It was the day Princess Sophia had supposedly been on a private retreat at the family's country estate, completely incommunicado for a week. The royal press office had made it clear that she was taking time for personal reflection and was not to be disturbed under any circumstances. But this bracelet suggested something entirely different. Princess Sophia had been in a hospital, and not just any hospital, but one with private wings, the kind reserved for the most sensitive cases, the kind of place where royal secrets went to be buried. Marcus looked around the corridor, his heart pounding. He was standing outside Queen Consort Isabella's study, which meant this bracelet had come from somewhere within her private quarters. How had it ended up here? And more importantly, what had Princess Sophia been doing in a hospital during her supposed retreat? The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. Marcus quickly pocketed the bracelet and resumed his inspection, nodding respectfully as Lady Catherine Morse, Isabella's chief lady-in-waiting, emerged from the study carrying an armful of documents. "Captain Blackwood," she acknowledged with a tight smile. "Everything in order?" "Yes, my lady. Just completing the morning security check." Lady Catherine's eyes lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary. "I trust you found nothing unusual?" The question seemed loaded with meaning. Marcus kept his expression neutral. "Nothing at all, my lady. All is as it should be." After Lady Catherine disappeared around the corner, Marcus remained frozen in place. Had she been fishing for information? Did she know about the bracelet? His secure radio crackled to life. "Captain Blackwood, please report to the King's private office immediately." Marcus made his way through the palace's winding corridors, his mind churning with possibilities. The bracelet felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. By the time he reached the King's office, he had made a decision that would change everything. King Edmund Aldara was a man who wore the weight of his crown heavily. At 52, he had ruled for 15 years, but the recent years had aged him considerably. The death of his first wife still haunted his features, and the constant pressure of maintaining royal appearances while managing family tensions had taken its toll. "Marcus," the king said without looking up from his desk, "I need to discuss security arrangements for the upcoming state dinner. There are concerns about internal matters that may require additional discretion." "Of course, Your Majesty. What specific concerns should I be aware of?" The king finally looked up, and Marcus saw something in his eyes that troubled him. Fear. Not the fear of external threats, but something deeper, more personal. "There have been rumors, Marcus. Whispers about events that supposedly never happened. I need to know that I can count on your absolute loyalty and discretion." Marcus felt the bracelet's presence in his pocket like a lead weight. "You have always had my loyalty, Your Majesty. That will never change." "Good." The king stood and walked to the window overlooking the palace gardens. Because sometimes, Marcus, protecting the crown means protecting it from the truth itself. Some secrets once revealed would do more damage than any external enemy ever could. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Marcus realized that his discovery might be far more dangerous than he had initially thought. Whatever had happened to Princess Sophia in September, it was significant enough that the king himself was worried about it coming to light. "I understand, Your Majesty." "I hope you do, Marcus, because the stability of the entire kingdom may depend on certain events remaining private." As Marcus left the king's office, his mind was made up. The bracelet represented more than just a medical visit. It was evidence of something that someone very powerful wanted to remain hidden. But Princess Sophia was the rightful heir to the throne, and if she was in danger or being manipulated, it was his sworn duty to protect her, even if it meant going against the wishes of the king himself. The question was, who could he trust? In a palace where loyalty was currency and secrets were weapons, one wrong move could mean the end of his career, his freedom, or possibly his life. That evening, Marcus stood in his modest apartment within the palace grounds, staring at the bracelet under his desk lamp. The date kept drawing his attention. September 3rd, 2023. What had happened to Princess Sophia that required complete secrecy and the fiction of a country retreat? He thought back to the days following her supposed departure. Queen Consort Isabella had seemed unusually relaxed during that week, almost victorious. She had taken several meetings with members of parliament and had been unusually active in court functions. At the time, Marcus had thought nothing of it. The Queen Consort was always eager to step into any role that increased her influence. But now, with the benefit of hindsight and the evidence in his hands, a darker picture began to emerge. Had Princess Sophia's hospitalization been used as an opportunity for Isabella to consolidate her position? And if so, what exactly had happened to the princess during that week? Marcus knew he needed more information, but he also knew that asking direct questions would only raise suspicions. He would have to be clever, subtle, and, most importantly, he would have to be careful about who he approached for help. His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on his door. Marcus quickly hid the bracelet in his desk drawer and opened the door to find Thomas Hartwell, a junior guard who had served under Marcus for 3 years. "Captain, I'm sorry to disturb you, but I thought you should know. There's been unusual activity in the Queen Consort's wing tonight. Several cars have come and gone, and Lady Catherine has been making calls from the secure line." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Was this connected to his discovery? Had someone realized the bracelet was missing? "Thank you, Thomas. Double the patrols tonight and keep me informed of any other unusual activity." After Thomas left, Marcus sat in his chair and stared at the desk drawer containing the bracelet. He was now certain that he had stumbled upon something significant, something that people were willing to kill to protect. The question was whether he was brave enough to pursue the truth, knowing that it might destroy everything he had worked for and everyone he was sworn to protect. Outside his window, the palace lights twinkled like stars, each one representing a life, a secret, a story waiting to be told. Marcus Blackwood, loyal servant of the crown, faced the most difficult decision of his life: preserve the peace by staying silent, or risk everything to uncover a truth that might shake the very foundations of the kingdom. The bracelet in his drawer seemed to pulse with possibility and danger in equal measure. Whatever choice he made, there would be no going back. The next morning brought with it an atmosphere of tension that Marcus could feel the moment he stepped into the palace corridors. Servants moved more quickly than usual, their eyes downcast, and the usual morning chatter was replaced by an almost oppressive silence. Something had changed overnight, and Marcus suspected his discovery of the hospital bracelet was only the beginning. His first stop was the Central Security Office, where he reviewed the previous night's activity logs. Thomas had been thorough in his reporting. Between midnight and 3 in the morning, 5 vehicles had entered and left the palace grounds through the private entrance reserved for the royal family's most sensitive business. All of the visitors had been cleared through Queen Consort Isabella's office, and their identities were classified under royal privilege. "Captain!" came a voice from behind him. Marcus turned to see Dr. Gilbert James Morrison, the palace's chief physician for the past 12 years. The doctor looked haggard, as if he hadn't slept, and his usually impeccable appearance was disheveled. "Dr. Morrison, you look tired. Is everything all right?" The doctor glanced around nervously before stepping closer. "Marcus, I need to speak with you privately. Not here. Too many ears. Can you meet me in the old chapel at noon?" The old chapel was located in the oldest part of the palace, a section that had been largely abandoned since the construction of the new wing 50 years ago. It was the perfect place for a conversation that required absolute privacy. "Of course, Doctor. Is this about a medical concern for one of the royal family members?" Morrison's face went pale. "Just be careful, Marcus. Some stones are better left unturned." With that cryptic warning, he hurried away, leaving Marcus more convinced than ever that his discovery was connected to something much larger and more dangerous. The hours until noon dragged by slowly. Marcus performed his duties mechanically, his mind constantly returning to the hospital bracelet hidden in his apartment. During his rounds, he made subtle observations about the behavior of the household staff and noticed several concerning details. First Lady Catherine seemed to be coordinating with several staff members in hushed conversations that stopped the moment anyone approached. Second, the Queen Consort's personal secretary had made numerous calls to legal offices throughout the morning. Most tellingly, Princess Sophia had not appeared for her usual morning ride, which she never missed unless she was seriously ill. At 11:30, Marcus made his way to the old chapel. The ancient stone building stood like a monument to forgotten prayers, its stained glass windows casting colored shadows across worn pews. Dr. Fared. Morrison was already there, sitting in the front row with his head in his hands. "Doctor?" "Marcus, I've been wrestling with my conscience all night. What I'm about to tell you could destroy lives, including my own. But I can't carry this burden alone anymore." Marcus sat down beside him, noting how the doctor's hands shook slightly. "Tell me, the bracelet you found, I know about it because I was the one who admitted Princess Sophia to the private medical facility that night. But she wasn't there for any ordinary medical treatment, Marcus. She was there because she had been poisoned." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "Poisoned? By whom?" "That's what we need to determine. But the circumstances surrounding her admission were unusual. The princess arrived at the facility unconscious, brought by Queen Consort Isabella's personal driver. Isabella herself was present and insisted on managing all aspects of Sophia's treatment. She claimed the princess had suffered a severe allergic reaction to medication, but the blood tests I ran told a different story. Dr. Morrison pulled out a manila folder from inside his coat. "These are copies of the lab results. They show traces of a compound called hemlock alkaloid, a sophisticated poison that mimics the symptoms of anaphylactic shock. In small doses, it can be fatal. In the dose found in Princess Sophia's system, it was designed to incapacitate, not kill." Marcus studied the medical reports, though much of the technical language was beyond his understanding. "Are you saying Queen Consort Isabella tried to poison Princess Sophia?" "I'm saying that someone with access to the princess's food or drink administered a carefully calculated dose of a dangerous substance. Isabella's presence at the hospital and her insistence on controlling the treatment narrative raises serious questions. Why didn't you report this immediately?" Morrison's laugh was bitter. "To whom? The king?" Isabella had already briefed him about Sophia's allergic reaction before I even had the test results. The hospital administration? They were paid handsomely to ensure complete discretion and to destroy all records of the visit. I kept these copies because something told me they might be needed someday. Marcus felt the weight of conspiracy settling around him like a suffocating blanket. What happened after Sophia recovered? That's the strangest part. When she regained consciousness, she had no memory of the hours leading up to her collapse. Memory loss is consistent with the type of poisoning she suffered. Isabella told her that she had indeed suffered an allergic reaction during their private dinner and that the week at the country estate would help her recover fully. So Sophia has no idea what really happened to her? None at all. She believes the story Isabella told her. But Marcus, there's something else you need to know. Marcus felt his blood run cold. What do you mean? Morrison opened another section of the folder. Over the past 18 months, I've been called to treat Princess Sophia for a series of minor but unusual ailments. Severe headaches that came and went without explanation. Digestive issues that didn't respond to treatment. Fatigue that seemed to come in waves. At the time, I attributed them to stress. The pressure of being heir to the throne is enormous. But now, looking at the pattern and considering what happened in September, I believe someone has been slowly poisoning her for over a year. The implications were staggering. Marcus stood and began pacing in front of the altar, his mind racing through the possibilities. You're suggesting this is part of a long-term plan to, what? Kill her? Make her unfit to rule? Think about it, Marcus. If Princess Sophia were to die or become incapacitated, who benefits? With no other heirs, the crown would eventually pass to any children the king might have with Isabella. She's been trying to get pregnant for years, and if Sophia were out of the picture, Marcus stopped pacing. She could position herself or a future child as the heir. Exactly. And consider this. The September incident happened just days before Parliament was scheduled to vote on the new succession laws that would have strengthened Sophia's position as heir. The princess missed those critical sessions while she was supposedly recovering at the country estate. Marcus realized the full scope of what they were dealing with. This wasn't just about one incident of poisoning. It was about a systematic plan to undermine the rightful heir to the throne. Doctor, why are you telling me this now? Why not months ago? Morrison stood and walked to one of the stained glass windows. Because yesterday, Isabella's personal secretary contacted me about resuming preventive treatments for the princess. She claimed that Sophia had been experiencing symptoms again, and that they wanted to begin a new medication regimen. The medications she described are all compounds that could easily mask the symptoms of chronic poisoning. They're planning to escalate. I believe so. And Marcus, there's one more thing. The Queen Consort has requested that I be replaced as the family's primary physician. My replacement is Dr. Harold Voss, a man known for his discretion and his willingness to overlook inconvenient medical findings in exchange for generous compensation. Marcus felt the urgency of the situation pressing down on him. How long do we have? Dr. Voss is scheduled to begin his duties next week. Once he's in place, I'll have no access to the princess's medical care and no way to monitor or prevent what might happen to her. Marcus made his decision. Doctor, I need you to do something for me. Can you arrange a private medical examination for Princess Sophia? Something that wouldn't go through normal palace channels? It would be risky. But yes, I have colleagues who would be willing to help if they understood the gravity of the situation. But Marcus, what are you planning? I'm going to tell Princess Sophia the truth. She has a right to know that her life is in danger, and she's the only one with the authority to take action against Isabella. Dr. Morrison grabbed Marcus's arm. That's incredibly dangerous. If Isabella discovers that we know about the poisoning, we'll both be dead before the week is out. And if Princess Sophia doesn't believe us, then we'll have to make sure she does. Doctor, do you still have access to the princess's private apartments? Can you arrange to be there tonight for a routine medical check? Something that wouldn't seem unusual? Morrison considered this for a long moment. I could claim that I need to follow up on some test results from her recent physical examination. It would give us perhaps an hour alone with her. That's enough time to show her the evidence and explain what we believe has been happening. But doctor, once we do this, there's no going back. Are you prepared for the consequences? Marcus, I became a doctor to save lives. If I stay silent now, I'll be complicit in the murder of the rightful heir to the throne. Whatever the consequences, I can live with them better than I can live with that guilt. They spent the next hour planning their approach to Princess Sophia. They would need to be careful not to overwhelm her with information, but thorough enough to convince her of the danger she faced. Most importantly, they needed to do all of this without alerting Isabella or her supporters within the palace. As they prepared to leave the chapel, Marcus realized that they were about to commit what could be considered treason, going behind the back of the king and queen consort to reveal a conspiracy that reached to the highest levels of the royal family. But sometimes, he reflected, true loyalty required the courage to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, even from those closest to them. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the chapel's ancient windows as Marcus and Dr. Morrison finalized their plans. Tonight, they would either save Princess Sophia's life or seal their own fates. In the game of royal succession, there were no second chances, and the stakes couldn't be higher. As they walked back toward the main palace, Marcus noticed that several of Isabella's personal guards had taken up positions throughout the corridors, positions that would allow them to monitor movement in and out of Princess Sophia's wing of the palace. The net was tightening, and time was running out faster than they had anticipated. The evening approached with agonizing slowness, as Marcus and Dr. Morrison prepared for what could be the most dangerous conversation of their lives. Princess Sophia's private apartments occupied the entire third floor of the palace's north wing, a section that had been specially renovated for her when she reached adulthood. The irony was not lost on Marcus that they were about to tell the future queen that her own stepmother was systematically poisoning her. At precisely 8 o'clock, Dr. Morrison knocked on Princess Sophia's door, carrying his medical bag and wearing the expression of routine professional duty. Marcus waited in the shadows of a nearby alcove, ready to join them once the doctor had secured their privacy. Dr. Morrison, Princess Sophia's voice carried a note of surprise. I wasn't expecting you this evening, Your Highness. I wanted to follow up on some blood work from your recent examination. There were a few results that I wanted to discuss with you privately. Marcus heard the door close and waited exactly 2 minutes before making his way to the apartment's private entrance. Dr. Morrison let him in, and Marcus found himself face-to-face with Princess Sophia for the first time in months. The princess looked tired, more than tired, actually. There was a pallor to her skin that spoke of ongoing illness, and her eyes, while still sharp with intelligence, held a weariness that seemed far too advanced for someone only 28 years old. Captain Blackwood, what's this about? Is there a security concern? Marcus and Dr. Morrison exchanged glances. There was no easy way to begin this conversation. Your Highness, Marcus said carefully, what I'm about to show you may be difficult to believe, but I need you to hear us out completely before you make any judgments. Princess Sophia's expression grew serious. She gestured for them to sit in her private study, a room lined with books and family portraits that spoke to both her education and her deep connection to the royal legacy. Marcus pulled the hospital bracelet from his pocket and placed it on the table between them. I found this yesterday in the corridor outside Queen Consort Isabella's study. Do you recognize it? Princess Sophia picked up the bracelet and read it carefully. Marcus watched as confusion, then recognition, then alarm crossed her features. This has my name on it. And this date, September 3rd. But I was at the country estate that week. I had an allergic reaction during dinner with Isabella, and she suggested I take some time to recover in privacy. She looked up at them. What is this? Morrison leaned forward. Your Highness, you were never at the country estate that week. You were at St. Catherine's private medical facility, unconscious and under my care, after being admitted for what Isabella claimed was an allergic reaction. That's impossible. I remember the estate. I remember walking in the gardens, reading by the lake. Your Highness, Dr. Morrison said gently, those memories were likely created by the drugs in your system. The poison you were given can cause memory displacement and the creation of false memories, especially when combined with certain other compounds. Princess Sophia set the bracelet down with trembling hands. Poison? What are you talking about? Morrison opened his medical folder and spread the test results across the table. These are your blood work results from that night. They show clear evidence of hemlock alkaloid poisoning, a sophisticated compound that can be lethal in large doses or incapacitating in smaller ones. Someone administered this to you deliberately. Marcus watched as Princess Sophia studied the medical reports, her face growing paler with each page. When she finally looked up, her voice was barely a whisper. "Isabella did this." "We believe so," Marcus said. "But, Your Highness, there's more." Dr. Morrison believes this wasn't an isolated incident. For the next hour, they laid out everything: the pattern of mysterious illnesses over the past 18 months, the timing of the September poisoning with the succession vote, Isabella's control over the medical narrative, and most troubling of all, the plans to replace Dr. Morrison with someone more compliant. Princess Sophia listened in growing horror as the pieces fell into place. "The headaches," she whispered. "The fatigue, the digestive problems. I thought it was stress from my royal duties." "It's likely you've been systematically poisoned for over a year," Dr. Morrison confirmed. "It's small doses, carefully timed to avoid detection while gradually weakening your health and your ability to perform your duties effectively." Princess Sophia stood and walked to her window, looking out over the palace grounds where she had grown up believing herself safe and protected. When she turned back to them, her expression had hardened with royal resolve. "What proof do we have beyond Dr. Morrison's medical records?" Marcus had been dreading this question. "Your Highness, the direct evidence is limited. The hospital destroyed their records as Isabella requested. The blood samples are gone. What we have are Dr. Morrison's copies of the test results and the bracelet I found, and both could be dismissed as fabricated if Isabella chose to challenge them." "Yes, Your Highness." Princess Sophia began pacing, her mind clearly working through the implications. "If what you're telling me is true, then Isabella has been committing treason, attempting to alter the succession through murder, but proving it will require more than medical records." Marcus leaned forward. "Your Highness, there may be a way to get proof." "What do you mean?" Dr. Morrison mentioned that Isabella's secretary contacted him about resuming preventive treatments for you. What if we allowed that to happen, but under controlled circumstances where we could document everything? Dr. Morrison looked alarmed. "Marcus, that would mean allowing them to poison the princess again." "Not necessarily." Dr. Morrison, could you substitute harmless compounds for whatever they try to give her? Make it appear that the treatment is proceeding while actually protecting the princess?" Princess Sophia interrupted their discussion. "Absolutely not. I won't put either of you at risk by engaging in that kind of deception. If Isabella is willing to poison me, she won't hesitate to kill anyone who threatens her plans. Then what do you propose, Your Highness?" Princess Sophia was quiet for a long moment, considering their options. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone born to rule. "I'm going to confront my father directly, tonight." Marcus felt his heart sink. "Your Highness, with respect, the king may already know about Isabella's actions. His warning to me yesterday about protecting the crown from the truth suggests he's aware of the situation. Then I need to know where my father stands. If he's complicit in this, then I need to prepare for the possibility that I can't trust anyone in the royal family. If he's being manipulated by Isabella, then I need to give him the chance to do the right thing," Doctor said. Morrison shook his head. "Princess, if the king is involved, showing him this evidence could be signing all of our death warrants." "Perhaps, but I am the heir to this throne, and I have a responsibility to the people of this kingdom that supersedes my responsibility to my own safety. If Isabella is willing to commit murder to seize power, then she represents a threat not just to me, but to the stability of the entire monarchy." Marcus realized that Princess Sophia was right, but the danger of their situation was escalating rapidly. "Your Highness, if you're determined to speak with the king, at least let us arrange some protection for you. Once Isabella realizes that you know the truth, you'll be in immediate danger." "What kind of protection?" Marcus had been thinking about this possibility. "I have loyal guards who have served under me for years. Men I trust with my life. They could provide discreet security without alerting Isabella's people to what we're doing." Princess Sophia considered this. "Very well, but I want to speak with my father within the hour. The longer we wait, the more time Isabella has to prepare countermeasures." As they finalized their plans, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. Too many things about their discovery felt orchestrated. The bracelet left where he would find it, Dr. Wisdom. Morrison's sudden crisis of conscience. Even Isabella's apparent carelessness in leaving evidence behind. But whether this was a trap or simply the unraveling of a long-term conspiracy, they were committed now. Princess Sophia had the right to know the truth about the threats to her life, and they had the duty to protect her, regardless of the consequences. Morrison packed up his medical files while Marcus contacted his most trusted guards through secure channels. Within minutes, they had established a discreet security perimeter around Princess Sophia's apartments. As they prepared to approach the king, Marcus reflected on how quickly their world had changed. 24 hours ago, he had been a loyal palace guard performing routine duties. Now he was part of a conspiracy to expose what might be treason at the highest levels of the royal family. The irony was that in order to protect the crown, they might have to destroy it. Princess Sophia stood before her mirror, adjusting her appearance for what could be the most important conversation of her life. In the reflection, Marcus could see both the young woman who had grown up in these halls and the future queen who would either save or doom the monarchy with her next actions. "Gentlemen," she said, turning to face them, "whatever happens in the next hour will determine the fate of this kingdom. I want you both to know that I'm grateful for your loyalty and your courage." Marcus bowed. "Your Highness, it has been our honor to serve." As they prepared to leave for the king's private quarters, Marcus noticed that the palace seemed unusually quiet for an evening hour. Either this was a coincidence or Isabella's people were already moving to contain the situation. Either way, there was no turning back now. The walk to King Edmund's private quarters felt like a march to the executioner's block. Marcus flanked Princess Sophia's right side while Dr. Morrison walked slightly behind them, the medical evidence secured in his bag. The corridors seemed to stretch endlessly, and Marcus noticed that several of Isabella's personal guards had taken up strategic positions throughout the palace, positions that would allow them to control access to the king should the need arise. King Edmund's private study was located in the heart of the palace, accessible through a series of increasingly secure checkpoints. As they approached the final corridor, Marcus spotted Thomas Hartwell and two other loyal guards he had positioned earlier. Their presence provided some comfort, but Marcus knew that if this confrontation went badly, a few loyal guards would be no match for the forces Isabella could muster. The king's personal aide, William Ashford, greeted them at the study door with obvious surprise. "Princess Sophia, Your Majesty isn't expecting you this evening. Perhaps you could schedule an appointment for tomorrow?" "William," Princess Sophia said with quiet authority, "please tell my father that I need to speak with him immediately about a matter of urgent family security." "Of course, Your Highness. Please wait here." The minutes stretched like hours as they waited for permission to enter. Marcus used the time to study their surroundings, noting potential escape routes and identifying possible threats. Dr. Morrison looked increasingly nervous, checking and rechecking his medical bag as if the evidence might somehow disappear. Finally, William returned. "His Majesty will see you now, but he asks that Captain Blackwood and Dr. Morrison wait outside." Princess Sophia shook her head firmly. "They are essential witnesses to what I need to discuss. They must be present." Another delay as William returned to consult with the king. When he emerged again, his expression was troubled. "His Majesty agrees, but he asks that you understand this is highly irregular." The king's private study was a room that spoke of power and history. Dark oak panels lined the walls, and portraits of previous monarchs looked down with stern gazes. King Edmund stood behind his massive desk, and Marcus was struck by how much older the king looked than when he had seen him just days earlier. "Sophia," the king said, his voice carrying both affection and concern, "William says this is about family security. What's troubling you?" Princess Sophia took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Father, I have reason to believe that Isabella has been systematically poisoning me for over a year, culminating in a serious attempt on my life last September." The silence that followed was deafening. King Edmund's face went through a series of expressions: surprise, denial, and then something that looked almost like resignation. "That's a very serious accusation, Sophia. What evidence do you have?" Dr. Morrison stepped forward and placed the medical files on the king's desk. "Your Majesty, these are the blood test results from Princess Sophia's admission to St. Catherine's Medical Facility on September 3rd. They clearly show evidence of hemlock alkaloid poisoning." Marcus watched the king's face carefully as he reviewed the medical documents. What he saw there confirmed his worst fears. The king was not surprised by this information. He was reading the documents like a man reviewing facts he already knew. "Father," Princess Sophia said, her voice barely controlled, "did you know about this?" King Edmund set down the medical reports and walked to the window overlooking the palace gardens. For a long moment he stood in silence, and when he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with what sounded like guilt. "I knew something had happened in September. Isabella told me that you had suffered a severe allergic reaction, and that it was best for your recovery and the stability of the kingdom if the incident remained private. I didn't question her explanation. But you suspected there was more to the story?" The king turned back to face them. "Sophia, the pressures of maintaining royal stability are complex. Sometimes leaders must make difficult choices for the greater good." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The king's words suggested not just knowledge but potential complicity. Princess Sophia stepped closer to her father. "What are you saying? That you knew Isabella was poisoning me and allowed it to continue?" "I'm saying that the succession has always been a delicate matter. Your marriage prospects have been limited. You've shown little interest in producing heirs. Meanwhile, Isabella has been working tirelessly to provide the kingdom with additional stability through her own potential children." The implications of the king's words hit the room like a physical blow. Marcus realized they weren't just dealing with Isabella's ambitions. They were facing a conspiracy that included the king himself. Morrison found his voice first. "Your Majesty, are you suggesting that you approved of attempts to murder your own daughter?" "Management. Isabella assured me that the treatments were designed to encourage Sophia to step aside voluntarily, perhaps in favor of a more traditional role that wouldn't require her to produce heirs under public scrutiny." Princess Sophia stared at her father in horror. "Treatment? You call systematic poisoning treatment? I call it a necessary intervention to prevent a succession crisis. Sophia, you must understand, the kingdom needs stability above all else. Your reluctance to embrace traditional royal duties has created uncertainty about the future of the monarchy." Marcus realized that they had walked into something far worse than they had imagined. This wasn't just Isabella's conspiracy. It was a family conspiracy, designed to remove Princess Sophia from the succession while maintaining the appearance of natural circumstances. "Father," Princess Sophia said, her voice now steady with royal authority, "you are describing treason against the rightful heir to the throne. You are describing the systematic undermining of the legal succession for personal and political gain." King Edmund's expression hardened. "I am describing the practical management of a kingdom that cannot afford the luxury of an uncertain succession. Sophia, you can make this easy on everyone by voluntarily renouncing your claim in favor of any future children Isabella and I might have. You would be provided for generously, and the kingdom would have the stability it needs." The room fell silent as the full scope of the conspiracy became clear. This had never been about protecting Princess Sophia. It had been about removing her from power, while avoiding the political chaos that would result from her obvious murder or forced abdication. Princess Sophia straightened to her full height, and in that moment, Marcus saw not just a young woman, but a queen. "Father, I am the rightful heir to this throne, as designated by law and by your own previous declarations. I will not be poisoned, manipulated, or coerced into abandoning my birthright. And if you refuse to be reasonable..." The threat in the king's voice was unmistakable. Marcus tensed, realizing that they were now in immediate physical danger. "Then you will be declaring war on the legal succession and on the constitution of this kingdom," Princess Sophia replied. "And I will fight that war with every resource available to me." King Edmund moved to his desk and pressed a button that Marcus knew would summon the palace security forces. Within moments, they would be surrounded by guards loyal to the king rather than to the rightful succession. "Marcus," the king said, his voice now cold and official, "you and Dr. Morrison are dismissed from royal service effective immediately. You will surrender any royal property in your possession and leave the palace grounds within the hour." Marcus made a split-second decision that would define the rest of his life. Instead of acknowledging the king's dismissal, he stepped closer to Princess Sophia and said clearly, I serve the rightful heir to the throne. My loyalty is to the legal succession, not to those who would undermine it. Morrison, though visibly terrified, moved to stand beside them. As do I, Your Majesty. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors outside the study. King Edmund smiled grimly. Then you have all committed treason against the crown. No, Father, Princess Sophia said with quiet dignity. You have. The study door burst open, and 6 palace guards entered, led by Captain Robert Sterling, the head of the Royal Protection Unit. Marcus recognized him as a man who had served the royal family for 15 years, a professional soldier who followed orders without question. Captain Sterling, King Edmund said, please escort these 3 individuals to secure quarters while we determine the appropriate response to their treasonous activities. But Captain Sterling hesitated, looking between the king and Princess Sophia with obvious confusion. Your Majesty, I need clarification. Are we detaining the heir to the throne? The question hung in the air, highlighting the constitutional crisis they had created. Princess Sophia seized the moment. Captain Sterling, I am ordering you, as the rightful heir to this throne, to place King Edmund and Queen Consort Isabella under protective custody while we investigate credible threats to the royal succession. For a moment, the room was frozen in tableau. 2 opposing claims to royal authority, each demanding loyalty from the same guards. Captain Sterling looked desperately uncomfortable as he realized he was being forced to choose between competing versions of royal legitimacy. Marcus knew that the next few seconds would determine not just their fate, but the fate of the entire kingdom. In palace coups, timing was everything, and they had reached the point where loyalty, law, and power would either align or tear the monarchy apart. The silence stretched until Captain Sterling finally spoke, his voice carefully neutral. I think we need to contact the Parliament and the Lord Chancellor immediately. This is a constitutional matter that requires guidance from the highest legal authorities in the kingdom. It was a diplomatic solution that avoided immediate bloodshed while acknowledging the gravity of the situation. King Edmund looked furious, but even he couldn't argue with the need for constitutional guidance when the succession itself was in dispute. As they waited for the legal authorities to arrive, Marcus realized that they had succeeded in exposing the conspiracy, but at the cost of potentially destroying the monarchy itself. Princess Sophia had chosen to fight for her rightful place, but the battle was far from over. The hospital bracelet that had started everything still lay on the king's desk, a small piece of plastic that had unraveled decades of royal stability. Whatever happened next, the kingdom of Aldara would never be the same. Outside the study windows, dawn was beginning to break over the palace grounds, casting new light on a kingdom that would wake up to find its royal family in crisis, and its future more uncertain than it had been in generations. Marcus stood beside Princess Sophia, knowing that his simple act of loyalty had helped set in motion events that would either save the monarchy or destroy it entirely. Either way, the truth was finally emerging from behind the palace walls, where it had been hidden for too long. The reign of secrets was over. The reign of truth, whatever its cost, had begun.